Welcome to SVG-TV News for Tuesday, August 17th, 2021. I am Rochelle Batiste with the details. Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves has revealed his intentions to pursue legal action against 2 newspapers and 1 radio station here for articles published and broadcast, which he said defamed him, which they claimed that he had turned the police against the people following the attack on his person during the August 5th protest action in capital Kingstown. Speaking on radio on Sunday, the Prime Minister disclosed that the false statements uttered by the opposition leader were repeated by each entity.
For instance, one columnist said that by Saturday, the Gonsalves government had turned the police on the people. Now, if I turn the police on people, I'll be guilty of misbehavior in public office, which carries 1 year imprisonment. I'll be liable to be jailed for 1 year. Friday, of course, said it in a very long-winded way. But the entire paragraph in his speech at the press briefing on Saturday the 7th, which was on Nice Radio, where he specifically spoke about Ralph Gonsalves and others who intimidating the people and all Vincentians and intimidating them, and all they're doing is just disagree with me. Well, if I intimidate people by using the police and locking up people and so on, I'd be guilty of misbehavior in public office. I don't have anything to do. The police do their work. I don't tell the police who to search, who to lock up, or anything like that. I don't get involved with that. And the newspaper published that. And I will sue them too. His broadcast came over on Nice Radio. I will sue them too. The article was just published in the Vincentian. I will sue the person and the Vincentian.
Outside the magistrate court yesterday, where he was lending support to 2 activists who were charged in relation to the protests held on July 29th and August 5th under the Public Order Act, the opposition leader, Dr. Godwin Friday, was asked about the defamation claim made by the Prime Minister. In his response, the opposition leader said that he knew what he said at the NDP's news conference on Saturday, August 7, 2021, and did not defame anyone.
Well, I don't know what the defamation is, but certainly he can allege whatever he wants. But the point is that this is, I am certain that I have not, because I'm very careful with the use of my words. But in any event, this again is all part of the tactics trying to silence people.
Magistrate Zoila Ellis-Brown has recused herself from the case involving Assistant Director of Public Prosecutions Kareem Nelson and Deputy Speaker of the House of Assembly Ashel Morgan. Morgan and Nelson are charged in connection with a shooting incident in Diamond on April 13th at the home of Cornelius John, who sustained a gunshot wound to his leg. At the Calico Magistrate Court today, the sitting magistrate Alice Brown recused herself from the case based on the ground that Morgan is a family counsel and therefore she cannot fairly sit in the matter. The cross-complainant against the Deputy Speaker of the House and the Assistant DPP was transferred to the Mesopotamia Magistrates Court for hearing on Friday, August 27th, while charges against the shooting victim, Cornelius John, will be heard at the Bible Magistrate Court on Friday, August 20th. The Assistant DPP is charged with wounding John and unlawfully discharging a firearm at him, while the Deputy Speaker of the House of Assembly is charged that she assaulted John with intent to wound him. John, on the other hand, is charged with using threatening language to Morgan and 2 counts of using threatening language to Nicole John, his wife, during the April 13th incident at their home in Diamond. The 3 defendants pleaded not guilty to all charges against them when they were arraigned at the Serious Offences Court on June 27th. In a media statement issued after her appearance at the Calico Magistrate Court today, the government senator and Deputy Speaker of the House of Assembly broke her silence on her legal troubles. In her statement, Ashel Morgan said she had previously reserved her rights to comment and interact with the media before now because she had assumed that anything that she said would have been misconstrued, twisted, or sensationalized, noting that public reported written illustrate this very much, but at the risk of her reputation being ruined even further, she decided to speak now on the matter. The senator said she is disappointed that the underlying agenda is set to destroy young black women leaders who are determined to pass on the baton of modernity and progression to the little girls of St. Vincent and the Grenadines and the world. Morgan went on to say that she has faith in the justice system and trusts that justice will prevail, noting that the unfortunate situation that she found herself in is due to her intrinsic desire to help and empower others, especially women who ask for her assistance. She said it was also due to her desire to find solutions to gender-based violence and domestic abuse in our communities. The embattled government senator went on to further state, and I quote, "Sadly, because there are other malicious forces at play, this side of the story will be overshadowed by a false narrative that aims to damage the reputation and career I have worked hard to build. Despite this, I won't stop making efforts to improve the lives of others," unquote. After she was charged on June 23, 2021, Morgan had requested and was granted a 1-month leave of absence from Parliament, which was extended by another month, announced by the Speaker of the House at the last sitting on August 5th. In other news, Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves announced today on the radio that the all clear has been given for residents in the red zone above Rabuka to return to their homes as far as Owia by Monday, August 23rd, 2021. The Prime Minister said the government took the decision yesterday at a meeting of the National Emergency Management Council based on information that all utility services are back in place and the cleaning up process almost completed.
That persons north of the dry river from Rabuka right up to Oya is now safe for them to go home. And Michelle Forbes and Nemo would be issuing the necessary public statement, the announcement. But as the Prime Minister, I myself have to make it clear, because the electricity is back up, the water is back up. Before the end of the month, the water will be back up in Fancy.
Yeah. The Prime Minister asks that persons comply and move out from the shelters, noting that the 26 schools which are being used as shelters need to be repaired in time for the start of the new school year in October. The Prime Minister said that his government is, however, aware of persons who cannot return to their homes which were severely damaged or destroyed by the eruptions, and that provisions will be made for these persons.
There are a small number of persons who can't go back to their homes, and we'll identify those and make arrangements. Yeah. You can't come and say, well, you have to stay because you're waiting on a house. I mean that if you remain in the shelter, that you first in line for a house. We know on the ground those who have to get the houses first, then second, because you have to do it on a phase basis. There are some persons feel that a person has a house, but who using the shelter as a kind of rest place.
The Prime Minister said it is the responsibility for residents to clean up their homes and immediate surroundings, and if it cannot be done, then BRAXA will help. 11,500 packets with 15 different types of seeds were handed over to the Ministry of Agriculture yesterday. The donation was made by the government of Brazil to assist with the ministry's vegetation production program. Some of the seeds include pumpkin, lettuce, scallion, carrot, watermelon, hot and sweet pepper, radish, cabbage, parsley, tomatoes, and others. Minister of Agriculture Suboto Caesar thanked the government of Brazil for their contribution. He noted that the ministry plans to distribute the packets through a careful planned project.
This packet for the production of carrots What we are going to do is that we are going to build platforms for the expansion of carrot production in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, not only with the gifts that are here, but there are budgeted sums in the supplementary estimates for the recovery efforts as a result of the volcanic eruptions that will support the launch of this national project that will take place. So I just want persons who are listening and DG, whilst we have received these seeds, we are not going to keep them on our hands for too long, but the seeds would not be distributed willy-nilly. There has to be a carefully planned, structured, and conceived project where we will be addressing from seed to sale, from the distribution of the seeds and seedlings to the farmers, straight to the supermarket shelves and to the consumers.
Minister Cecil further noted that the ministry continues to work to ensure food security and food sovereignty and thank farmers for their support in this endeavor.
This moment in our country, there are 4 fundamental pillars for growth and development being advanced in the Ministry of Agriculture, Forestry, Fisheries, Rural Transformation, Industry, and Labor. Firstly, it has to do with the development of the fisheries industry, because we have a multi-million-dollar industry in fisheries that we have to continue to expand. The blue economy, and we see what is taking place before our very eyes. Rainforest Seafoods, for example, will be opened in a few weeks, and they will be employing 60 new workers. We see what is taking place with all the other fishery centers.
Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves continues to push for citizens to get vaccinated against COVID-19, particularly healthcare professionals and other frontline workers. On WeFM's Issues at Hand program, the Prime Minister explained why the actions being taken by the government for frontline workers to get vaccinated are in line with the country's constitution.
The week of the volcano, before the volcano blew, remember there was a discussion going on that on the April the 12th, the teachers would have to show evidence of either vaccination or that they take the test to come back to full-time teaching. And the argument was that each of those things is invasive. You can't trouble your individual liberty in that way. Constitution doesn't permit it. Well, Section 3 of the Constitution of St. Vincent and the Grenadines provides, the section dealing with the protection of right to personal liberty, says no person shall be deprived of his personal liberty, save as may be authorized by law in any of the following cases. And there are several cases, and one of them, G, in that section says, that is to say, for the purpose of preventing the spread of an infectious or contagious disease. Our Constitution specifically permits a law to be made to intervene in this respect. And that's why the Public Health Act of 1977 provides the framework for mandatory vaccination, but we are not using that framework to say that everybody in the country that you must have a mandatory vaccine. We are saying in relation to particular jobs, and it's not mandatory because you have a choice, working there, not working there.
As it relates to the ability to assert the person's religious rights under the Constitution, the Prime Minister explained how this can also be overruled in the interest of public health and safety. He also explained how it is not unlawful to distinguish between the vaccinated and non-vaccinated within specific contexts, like the workplace.
Well, the Constitution in Section 9 says that right can be contained, can be limited in the interest of public safety, public order, public morality, or public health. It has to be reasonably required for public health, and that it must be reasonably justifiable in a democratic society. And the law courts have repeatedly, in all the Commonwealth and the common law jurisdictions, argued in favor of the restrictions in the interest of public health. No, the switch on they said, but you can't discriminate against people who are vaccinated and those who are not vaccinated. What does Section 13 of the Constitution say in relation to discrimination? Section 13 protects everyone from discrimination in respect of on the grounds of race, sex, place of origin, political opinions, color, or creed. But to go from that to say that is discrimination, if you apply a standard or a qualification in relation to a job, it becomes discrimination. Because subsection 5 of that very section, section 13 says, nothing contained in any law shall be held to be inconsistent with or in contravention of subsection 1 of this section. That's protection from discrimination. To the extent that the law makes provision with respect to standards or qualifications, not being standards or qualifications specifically in the sex, race, place of origin, political opinions, color, or creed, but standards or qualification to be required of any person who is appointed to or to act in any office or employment.
PM Gonzalez also noted that while persons may lament that the situation in SVG is not as bad as other countries, there are stringent measures in countries which are currently green listed. Further, he said, unlike other places, SVG is not making the vaccine mandatory. Instead, the government is aiming to protect frontline workers and other sectors who come into contact with the public regularly.
The lockouts haven't gone on outside of mainstream health experts, for instance, from the WHO and from the 193 governments of the United Nations. The 193 governments of the United Nations. Cuba and the United States of America hardly agree on many things in the economic and political field. But they agree that vaccination is an important tool in the fight against COVID, and their laws permit for it to be quote-unquote mandatory. But some places impose it mandatorily, but we are not doing that. We outline the circumstances, the frontline workers, nurses, doctors, police, prison officers, people who work at airports and seaports and customs and immigration and the like.
The Prime Minister reiterated that all regulations will be applied within the framework of the Constitution, as he reiterated the appeal for frontline workers to get vaccinated.
Of the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines in relation to frontline employees, the regulations would be made on pursuant of the Public Health Act, and those regulations will come out in draft form and persons will get an opportunity to see them before we finalize them. At least relevant persons will be able to see them, and we will finalize those regulations, and everything will be done within the framework of the Constitution, within the framework of the law, and with reasonableness and good sense, because we have been acting all the time in using the law not as a sword against individuals, but as a shield for the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. That's why we had no curfew, that's why we had no state of emergency, where people's fundamental rights and freedoms are limited in an extraordinary manner.
And 3 new positive COVID-19 cases were reported from 228 samples processed on Monday, August 16, 2021, resulting in a positivity rate of 1.3%. No new COVID-19 positive cases were reported from 44 samples processed on Sunday, August 15, 2021. 1 new recovery was noted over the reporting period. 50 cases are currently active, and 12 persons with COVID-19 have died. 2,320 cases of COVID-19 and 2,258 recoveries have been recorded in SVG since March 2020. The health authorities say, in view of the increased rates of infection with and subsequent transmission of COVID-19 posed by the growing incidence of variants of concern in persons entering SVG, strict compliance with all protocols and recommendations, including the effective use of masks, physical distancing, hand sanitizing, and immunization with the available vaccines, is strongly recommended. A 5th form student of the Peter Bedell Secondary School, Osik Belinchi, is suffering from a heart disease and desperately needs $40,000 to undergo corrective surgery. The principal and teachers of the school are organizing a barbecue to raise funds for the 17-year-old who is currently writing CSEC. Principal of the school, Heather Stewart, said it is heartbreaking to know that one of our students is suffering, and they are happy to do their part to help.
And when we heard that as a school and a staff, we decided we have to run behind the student because his parent is not like, and even if when we think people rich, nobody could ever be able to cover this cost. And so we come together, the PTA proposed that we raise as much as we can, and in so doing they came up with the idea of doing a barbecue sale, a food sale, whatever, and we have decided to do so on the 27th of August, which is a Friday, and we will be selling tickets to the general public.
Stewart said Bilinchi is a lover of sports, noting that it was after a sporting event he fell ill. The principal said that a GoFundMe page was established and the school has also opened an account to raise funds for Bilinchi.
And with that, we are rallying behind him and we are asking the general public, if you hear about ticket sales anywhere, find out, call, you could call the school, because the school will be open, 45821-4582051. That's the school number you can call, or if you know teachers from the school, principal, deputy, anybody, ask them where to get tickets and they will be able to guide you as to picking up a ticket. I have established an account at Bank of St. Vincent, and the account number is 150256. I just received the number today, 150256. We are asking persons who are willing to donate to that account.
In February of this year, Bilinchi was diagnosed with a heart tumor, which has since occupied more than 50% of his right atrium. The surgery is expected to be done at the West Shore Medical Hospital in Trinidad and Tobago. In commemoration of the first anniversary of the passing of former broadcaster Evans Bernard John, the Toronto SVG support group, which he founded, announces the establishment of an annual education bursary, the E.B. John Memorial Bursary. The group said the bursary will be awarded each year to a national of St. Vincent and the Grenadines pursuing post-secondary studies in the communication arts or related field at the open campus of the University of the West Indies. In the first year, the bursary amount will be 2,000 Eastern Caribbean dollars that will be awarded to one individual. It said details on the application and selection process will be provided at a later date, and that the bursary amounts and awardees will be announced annually. The group said it expects the bursary will help deserving individuals achieve excellence in a field that was close to E.B.'s heart, which will be a fitting tribute in his honor. E.B. founded the Toronto SVG support group in 2012. His vision for the group, as stated among its core objectives, was to promote and facilitate positive interaction among nationals of SVG throughout the diaspora and to partner with or otherwise support any other SVG and Caribbean group or persons with a similar vision.